Živijo, tukaj je Anže, poslušate podcast Apparatus, kjer legitimni člani družbe povejo, kaj počnejo v življenju. Tole pa je 80. epizoda Apparatusa, v kateri sem se pogovarjal s Scottom McNultyjem. On je še eden od tistih, ki sodeluje pri podcastu The Incomparable, tam tudi John Siracusa, recimo, včasih sodeluje, ta glavni je pa Jason Snell, ki sta oba dva že bila na Apparatusu. Tako da sem zdaj še s Scottom govoril, ki je pa štartal en nov podcast, v katerem bo več med pogovorom povedal, drugače pa za človeka, ki je bil urednik The Unofficial Apple webloga, se pravi enega največjih Apple blogov ever, zdaj pa pač piše knjige, pa malo podcasta. Pač full fine model, malo čuden se je začel pogovor, ker se ne začne z unim klasičnim mojim vprašanjem, ampak je bilo full zabaven. Tako da naprej začnemo. Še enkrat full hvala vsem, ki ste že podprli Apparatus. Če pa to hočete narediti, pejte pa na apparatus.si/podpri. Vsak evro prav pride, ker gre za opremo in za vse ostalo. Tako da full hvala. Evo, zdaj pa Scott.
Yeah, you guys just conceded a goal against Belgium.
Well,
yeah, I know.
I'm not a sports person, and so the World Cup is. Add to it, I'm an American, and I'm an American who doesn't like sports, and you can tell how interested I might be in the World Cup.
Yeah, I just like the classification, not a sports person. I think that's as generic as it gets, I guess.
Yeah, well, I understand the appeal, but it has not translated to me. My family, everybody else likes sports, but I don't.
Yeah, well, none of them like soccer, right?
None of them like soccer. Some of them, like my cousins, they're younger than me, so they played soccer. Soccer is big for kids here, but I'm not quite sure why it hasn't really caught on with the American public, like the viewing public, as much as it has in the rest of the world. I have no idea.
I saw this thing Keith Olbermann did a lot of days ago, where he just basically explained that whenever a tie can be a win, like Americans aren't interested.
Well, it is a little frustrating that that it can end in a tie and then nothing happens. I don't really understand that. Americans do like winners and losers.
Well, that's true. But you see that by the same logic, like I never really got baseball.
Oh, well, baseball is super boring. So I'm with you on that. I went to my wife's father, so my father-in-law, obviously, is a huge baseball fan. So he came to visit us a couple weeks ago, and so we went to a Phillies game, which is our, Philadelphia's baseball team, imaginatively named baseball team. And the thing lasted forever. It was like 4 hours long. And there was maybe 5 minutes of excitement in those 4 hours. It was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, and what's the mascot of the Phillies? This weird, I don't even know what that thing is.
It's the Fanatic, and it is a weird green monster of some sort.
I think we started. I think I'm going to leave this in.
All right.
It's just, yeah. Okay, so one more question about Philadelphia. Well, I guess I'm going to have a couple of more, but the impression I get, right, and I've only been to New York, so keep that in mind, in the States, but you guys are in Philadelphia are sort of the rudest part of America. That's... Is that fair to say, or is that just this myth that all of Philadelphia is basically just people who flip people off and cuts and stuff? That's basically how it translates over here, I think.
There are certainly those folks here in Philadelphia. I believe that this all started. There was I forget, there was some kind of game, maybe an Eagles game, so that's our football team. And people are crazy about American football, I should say. So, not soccer, but American football. The Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody's crazy about them here in Philadelphia. And at some point, maybe in the 70s, I think, there was a game with the Eagles around Christmas time, and the Eagles were doing really, really poorly. And so the crowd was very, very rowdy. And Santa Claus came out because it's Christmas time. And the crowd booed Santa Claus. And so I think that is really, many people have identified that as the moment when Philadelphians got this bad rap as being rude people because they booed Santa Claus. But if you come to Philadelphia, you'll be surprised that people are nice. I mean, much like in New York, New Yorkers sometimes get a bad rap for being rude, but they're not being rude. They're just busy, right? So they're to the point. Here in Philadelphia, we're not that busy.
So what's the excuse then?
But we just, it's a big city. We have a certain kind of northeastern brusqueness, I think. But overall, Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. So we're not that bad.
Okay, I'm really sorry. So you're defending.
No. Hey, there are rude people all over the place. So,
well, yeah, there's rude people over here. So
but I find it fascinating that is the impression that you have as an outsider who is not familiar with Philadelphia. Is that
because I don't know. I have this I guess it's a recurring theme now. I talked about this with Jason Snell and John Syracuse. Mm-hmm. That you see, it's easier now because of the internet, and basically because I, get to listen to podcasts really, because to guys like you and stuff. So you get this window into the American life, basically that you couldn't get before, and before that it was basically all TV shows, right, and like news reports, which is usually about murder, and
that is true.
Yeah, there's always a 3-minute segment in the news over here from America that some, dude murdered 3 people in a van or something like that.
Just 3 people. That's a good day here.
We're not going to go into that because that's a whole but you get these these snippets of life over that, and it never quite makes sense. TV shows, as John Syracuse pointed out to me, are not the best way to gleam into the American psyche. So
Philadelphia has not been portrayed nicely in many media outlets. So I mean, the biggest, of course, is Rocky, right? So you think about Rocky; he's from Philadelphia, and the first movie. Philadelphia is just like a pit that you don't want to come into. And I think 12 Monkeys maybe was in Philadelphia too.
Really? Oh, yeah. But that's a good movie.
That is a good movie, but not doesn't depict the city as its finest hour.
I do love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love that show.
That show is very funny. I don't know if it's the best depiction of the city either, but it is funny at least, and they're doing it on purpose.
Okay, so you can see where, if I put together a mosaic, I guess, because sort of Philadelphia comes across kind of...
Philadelphia is a weird kind of city because we have that one kind of reputation for being, dangerous and rude. And then the other thing is that, of course, there's Independence Hall, and this is where the Declaration of Independence was signed, Benjamin Franklin, all this kind of colonial history is here in Philadelphia. So it's a duality. And Philadelphia also... has a kind of a complex about itself because we are right between New York, which is, if you think of I'm assuming people who aren't American or even Americans who think of a great American city, the first one they think of is New York City, and then Washington D.C. So we're between the cultural and financial capital of the country and the actual capital of the country. And then there's Philadelphia, which a lot of people just think of as a train stop between Washington and New York.
Okay. I guess you should tell people who you are now and what you do.
Well, I represent the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, you're part of the mayor's team.
That's
or something.
Right.
You should... the special envoy to Philadelphia.
I'm the ambassador to the world of Philadelphia. It's not as bad as you think.
That should be a T-shirt.
There are good things here in Philadelphia too.
So yeah, okay. This is okay. This is my first and proper question. Although we're 8 minutes in, I guess. Who are you and what do you do?
I am Scott McNulty. I guess most people would know me from 2 things that I do, I suppose. I'm a writer and a podcaster. I do other stuff too, but those are probably the main things that people would know me from.
Okay, we're going to get into podcasts, and especially your latest podcast, which, it's why you're here, basically. Because you are on the list. I have a list, But as soon as a random track started, you moved way up.
Ah, well, great.
Just way up. But we'll get to that. So you were at 2 Hour right?
Yes, I was. That's where I started my kind of tech writing career at Tua.
So yeah, because when I did my research, I did not know that actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first time I heard it was on the Incomparable, of course, and but I did not like. But the way you have it written down in your about page is that you were there when that site actually took off.
Yes,
is that fair to say?
That I think now I can't take all the credit, obviously, but I think I joined Tua, and it was a very different kind of blog. I mean, it was a very different time for blogging as well. Where I go back and read some of my first posts on Tua, and it's kind of embarrassing because they're like 2 sentences and not very good sentences either. But so the traffic was, I wouldn't say low, but it wasn't great. But I think they hired me on and gave me my first break, and then they recognized, I guess, my meager talents, and I started hiring other folks, and then eventually I became like the guy in charge of Tua. For a while, and I kind of gave us, before it was just kind of a hobby for Weblogs Inc. This was before it was owned by AOL, and they weren't really concentrating on it, and then Apple's popularity grew, so that obviously helped traffic. And then I kind of set up this thing where I was like, okay, we need to start posting meatier things because that's the best way to get into it, and we need to post. I think the key to success is write or podcast or whatever, something that you're passionate about, and do it regularly, right? So I think we had the passion part down, but we weren't posting regularly. So I created this kind of schedule where we would post at least once every hour for like 12 hours. So there'd always be a huge number of posts, and that really helped with traffic. And so that's my story there.
So, but what was it like back then? Like, what time was this? What's the time frame?
You're taxing my memory here. I have to go on the internet and find out.
No, because the reason I'm interested is because, like, I don't know, when I started really following tech, like, Tua was always there, It's just one of those sites, it's just there. It's like The Verge now, and The Verge is pretty new, I guess. But The Verge has just kind of always been there. I guess for somebody that's just been following this for a couple of years. But because I'm fascinated with the fact that you mentioned it was like a small blog there, and I just want to know what that was like, that ascension, I guess, that happened with Apple. But
Well, I left Tua in 2008, so I must have started. I'm trying to figure out when I started.
Okay, so this was the iPod era.
The iPod was announced. That was a big help to our traffic. This was pre-iPhone. This was before, all the cool kids were doing Apple stuff. We were hardcore Apple fanatics before it was cool to be hardcore Apple fanatics.
How hipster of you.
Exactly. I liked it before everybody else did. So I must have started in, 2005, I guess?
Oh, awesome. I don't know. That it's always like it's weird when you have like sites that actually survive that long. Now, because like just the proliferation of blogs back then was insane. Like everybody just wanted to have a blog, and then Blogger came out, and WordPress sort of spread. And I don't know, it's just interesting to me to just talk to somebody that was there doing it, I guess, semi-professionally.
I was doing it. So I started blogging personally in 2000, so I've been blogging for a long time, and then. So I found my first post on Tua, and it's January 6th, 2005.
Oh, wow.
And so this was my first. I got paid to write these posts. I got paid, I think, probably like $5 a post or something back then. It was craziness. There was no. I shouldn't have been doing it for that price, but I was just so excited that I was getting paid to write. And things have changed dramatically since then.
Okay, but how have they changed?
Well, it's
I'm genuinely what are the I guess money-wise,
more people. Well, some people still write for free, or for much cheaper. I think blogging has become much more professional than it was, 9 years ago. People weren't thinking of it like you mentioned The Verge, right? The Verge it boggles my mind to think of The Verge as, I think it's even beyond a blog. It's kind of like I don't know what it is, electronic magazine or something like that, because they put so much effort into the presentation, and they have a huge staff, and they do all this kind of video stuff. So they're like a news channel and a magazine and a blog all wrapped together. And I think that's the model for especially these sites that have big staffs, right? They have to pump out the quality. Whereas back in 2005, we were just pumping out content and linking to stuff and, writing very informally. And nowadays it's just become much more professionalized, like I said. And I as that's happening, I think that you see things like John Gruber and other folks like that who have one-man operations or one-woman operations, not to be sexist, who are who play up their personality, right? So people go to those sites because they want to see what that person thinks, whereas people go to The Verge to kind of get a whole overview of what's happening, not necessarily to look for what one of The Verge reporters is thinking. I can't even think of anyone who writes at The Verge, but somebody I'm sure can. You know what I'm trying to say? It's more it's a team effort. Whereas we were trying, I think in the early days of blogging, it was your personality was kind of the main attraction, and you were a lot snarkier. I mean, certainly there's still a lot of snark out there, but certainly tech blogs have tamped it down a little, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what's gonna shake out of that? Like, because at some point there were just too many, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's so Weblogs Inc., which is the company that ran Tua and Engadget and all those things before AOL bought them. Their first strategy was to just create a huge number of different blogs and just have this network effect, right? And so there was the Tua blog, and there was a Google blog, and there was like a real estate blog and a travel blog and a Microsoft blog. They were trying to cover every vertical that they could think of. And then that didn't really work out. So, because it just kind of collapsed in on itself. And so then they thought, well, let's try to really build up specific brand names that people will go to on popular topics. And that's where Tua's became Tua, as opposed to, it used to be like apple.weblogsinc.com or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yep.
It actually had just a subdomain.
Yes, exactly. So they were thinking network. And then now I think certainly history has proven that kind of having strong brand verticals is the way to go. Because people, I think, like to identify with brands. Speaking of Apple, right? That's what one of Apple's great successes is, that people identify and like the brand. Of course, they also make very good products, but above and beyond that, it is one of the best brands in the world and most recognized. So, getting that brand out there is important.
So, have you ever been like a print journalist then, or you're web only?
Well, I have had a couple. So I left UA, and then I started writing intermittently for Macworld, and so I've had a couple of actual print articles in Macworld, but I wouldn't consider myself a print journalist in any stretch of the imagination.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's awesome. I guess. I don't know. That just seems okay. Yeah. Because I'm a print guy basically, and it's because the web over here isn't really viable, like in any shape or form.
Why is that?
Well, because I don't. There's a couple of small size but there's 2 million people in Slovenia. Mm-hmm. So, and the weird thing is there's a ton of magazines over here still. It's this weird. I don't want to call it an anomaly because I don't know like the situation elsewhere, but there's just an insane amount of them. And like with the 2008 recession or whatever, I guess it's gotten like the field is shrinking, but you'd be surprised basically.
So do all these magazines have? Because obviously we have a lot of magazines here as well, but they seem to shift their focus from the magazine, like the print thing. They still have it, but they've shifted to putting everything on the web and on their website. Is that happening there as well, or?
Yeah, well, it is, but it's. I don't know how you monetize that. I guess I talked with Jason about that because I'm an online editor of a magazine now, so
okay.
I'm
this
supposed to.
This is the problem you're supposed to solve.
Well, basically, yeah. So yeah, and it's just I don't know. That's why I envy you guys. Like even Jason, with IDG and Macworld and stuff. But yeah, it's sort of. I think America, just because of the sheer volume of the eyeballs you can get,
Sure.
a lot of stuff gets worked out. I think
we were speaking of Philadelphia before. There are 5 million people in Philadelphia, so that's 2.5 times or
Slovenia. Yeah.
So I mean, even that's just Philadelphia has a couple of websites that are just devoted to the Philly tech scene, which I find amazing that they survive, and they have full-time employees and they do all kinds of wacky stuff. And the way they have done it is the first thing you think of with a website, at least I do, when you're trying to monetize it, is advertising, right? And that's probably the hardest thing to do because of the fact that you can get so many metrics, right? So advertisers are like, well, I'll only pay, and thanks to Google, they know like I'll pay like half a penny for a click or something like that. And nobody clicks advertising on the internet anymore, right? So that's a problem. So they have done something I think is pretty clever. They hold a lot of events. They run events, and they charge for them, and they make a lot of money. And they have this whole big thing called Philly Tech Week, where they run a couple of their own signature events, but then they have the rest of the community kind of put their tech events that were already happening under this umbrella. So they get sponsorship, and it's a whole big to-do. They played a big giant game of Tetris on a skyscraper here. So they do.
Oh, I saw that.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually saw
that. Was in Philadelphia. So they're doing an interesting thing, and I think they also do. What do they do? Like job boards and that kind of thing. So there are lots of different models. I don't know which is right, but
I don't think anybody does.
No,
it's yet to be determined. I think
everybody's trying to figure out how to make money.
Yeah. Because that's that whole thing that at some point, like, newspapers and magazines gave stuff away for free on the internet.
Right.
That still has not been reversed, I think.
They're trying. They're trying to reverse it, but it's tough.
Yeah, once something goes free, But that word has become sort of like the word free on mobile, I think, is just so tainted with the app situation. It's not even funny. I just wrote an article like 2 days ago about in-app purchases, which has just gone insane.
It's true. I was going to say maybe that's the way that journalism will survive. You'll get the newspaper or the magazine for free, and then you open it up, and there'll be like maybe 2 articles. And if you want to read the rest of the articles, you pay like a quarter per article, and there you go.
Yeah. Or like you'll have to pay, or they'll lock you out of the newspaper for 24 hours.
That's right. That is the most annoying thing. There are a couple of games that I have tried out, and I'm really bad at games, and I'm certainly a casual gamer, and it frustrates me to no end when I'm playing like 3, I guess, or 4, whatever that game is, and you run out of lives, and then you have to wait like 40 minutes to try again. Or you can buy for $1, you can do it right then. Like,
yeah, that's insane to me. Yeah, that's the exact thing I wrote about. Like when you're at the point where you're just waiting to play the game, I'm not sure that's a game. Okay, I think it loses its gameness, I guess. It's just not.
Yeah, I don't. It's like the Farmville thing, which I have never played, but my mother, who is not the most savvy person in the world when it comes to technology, is obsessed with Farmville. So I had to block her on Facebook because she kept asking me to visit her farm and buy her tractors. I mean, the game was doing it. I don't think she realized that was happening. But yeah, it's crazy. And then so the whole thing on Farmville is you have this farm, obviously, and you plant crops, and I guess you take care of chickens and whatever. But you plant something and then you have to wait like 40 minutes for it to grow, or you can pay like, whatever, $1, and it will automatically grow and you can reap your crops then. So it's all a sophisticated way to milk money out of you.
Yeah, especially out of people that have never played games before and think this is how it's always been.
Right.
Like I'd love to see a person that actually thinks that, I don't know, like a game from the 90s, like if you played like Command and Conquer Red Alert, you like had to pay to build a tank faster. Like that would be.
I'm sure that somewhere, whoever makes Command & Conquer is working on that right now.
Yeah, a mobile version.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you want to use the ion cannon, $5, dude.
Oh man, the ion cannon. That's so much fun. Bringing back memories of Command & Conquer.
Oh, yeah, I used to play those games to death. But yeah, I was an RTS guy, I guess.
I enjoy those games. Once again, I'm really bad at them. I don't know what it is, but I'm bad at games in general. So I would enjoy playing them, but also swiftly get defeated, which is why I never play online, because I tried it with, what did I try? Maybe Halo, which I really like, but I'm not very good at. And I got into this match online, and like a 12-year-old kid somewhere immediately killed me and then started mocking me. And I was like, oh, this is not fun. And so I logged off, and never again have I played online.
Yeah, I talked about this with John Syracuse, and like I get with Halo, you aren't dealing with a lot of Japanese guys. Like when you play Nintendo games and you think you're good, and then just some kid from Tokyo just destroys you. There's no mocking there. That's true. I've never been mocked.
See, they're very polite, but they are politely destroying you.
Basically, yeah. Okay, so we'll go into podcasting now. Which, I've thrown my notes basically out the window because I don't know. We started with sports, which is weird. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, which is, this might be the weirdest.
Well, it is the World Cup. It's World Cup fever. Everybody has World Cup fever.
Wow, yeah, but I'm 6'8" and I play basketball, so it's not really my sport, Yeah.
See, my family crazy about basketball. I am not crazy about basketball, but my family is.
See, we can go into the whole why NBA basketball isn't really basketball until the playoffs. But since you're not a sports person,
I would have nothing to add.
Yeah, that's why we're going to talk about Star Trek.
I could talk about.
Yeah, common ground, man. Common ground. So random track. Okay, explain to people what random track is, because I want people over here to just sort of listen to it, basically. So just explain the premise, and then we'll go into Star Trek.
Okay, sure. So the idea is there are over 650 episodes of Star Trek across several series, and then add the movies. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to just pick a random episode of Star Trek and then talk about it with somebody on a podcast? And so that's the basic premise. I have a list of 681 different Star Trek episodes and movies in a spreadsheet. I go to random.org. It gives me a number. I take that number, match it up to the spreadsheet. That's the episode that I will inflict upon my guest, depending on what episode it is. We watch it before the podcast, and then we talk about it. It's very simple.
So it is actually random. Like, you actually do that. You go to random.com. Oh, okay. Because, so far the selection has been, weird. There's no...
Exactly.
I was trying to find a pattern.
There is no pattern. Except that the random.org apparently loves Voyager.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I was about to say that. Which, Voyager is kind of... For me, it's sort of... That's... Like the Next Generation is sort of my Star Trek series, but Voyager, I don't know. I have a sweet spot for Voyager.
See,
I think
this is the most surprising thing that I have found by recording this podcast. So at the moment, I think only 5 episodes are up, but I have recorded something like 16.
Oh wow,
I'm way ahead here. And so I've talked to a lot of different people about Star Trek, and I am surprised by the number of people that truly like Voyager, because when I first watched it, when it first came out, I hated it with a passion.
Why?
I don't know. Well, I do know. So at first it was because Captain Janeway was a woman, and I was like, why is this woman in charge? But I was young and misguided.
Okay.
I quickly overcame that because I realized, A, that was ridiculous for me to think that a woman couldn't be in Starship. Well, even, it's fictional, but still ridiculous that she couldn't be that captain. And as I watched the show, Captain Janeway is a great character, and Kate Mulgrew, who plays her, is a great actor. So she is not the problem. But there are many other characters in Voyager that I find super annoying. And
well, we all know the one character that everybody finds annoying.
there's Neelix.
Well, yeah, I was about to say
Yes.
that, yeah, which is the biggest flaw of that show, I think.
And so they got rid of Kess, so that helped because I found her annoying as well.
Well, yeah, but I just found her annoying because she was with Neelix.
That's true. Maybe if they could get rid of Neelix, Kess probably wouldn't have been so bad. And I don't like Harry Kim because he doesn't really do anything. Tom.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I actually like Harry Kim.
You can be wrong. And no, that's fine. And Tom Paris always rubbed me the wrong way. That being said, I really like Chakotay and Tuvok. I think they're great characters. 7 of 9, who comes in later. At first, I was worried about her because I thought, well, obviously, she's a very attractive woman. So I thought, okay, this is just they're trying to sex up the show, which is also a fatal flaw of Enterprise, I believe. But 7 of 9 is, in fact, a great character as well, who just happens to be very attractive and wear a skin-tight suit for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But if that is not her reason for being there. She is a very powerful character, and she doesn't take any crap from anybody. So, and of course, there's the Doctor, who's a great character. So there's a lot of things going for Voyager, and it is no longer my least favorite series. So.
Oh, which is your least favorite then?
Enterprise.
Well, yeah, like that's a given. I
Yes,
think.
exactly.
Yeah, because when it was first originally on, I torrented it basically because no network here would show it.
Wisely.
Yeah. When I saw it, I knew why. I think like the next generation, like you still had that on reruns, but no Enterprise. Basically.
Oh, Enterprise. I mean, the problem with Enterprise, there are many problems with Enterprise, but at first it started off just on a bad thing because they wanted it to be Star Trek, but they wanted it to appeal to non-Star Trek fans, and so what they did was alienate their core audience, and the people who weren't Star Trek fans weren't interested anyway, so nobody watched it and nobody liked it. And that's why I think their final season, the 4th season, when they knew they were being canceled, they were like, okay, well, let's just Star Trek it up. And so the 4th season is actually pretty good because they go back to the roots of Star Trek and you get a lot of strong episodes. But it took a while.
Yeah, I never watched the last season, which I think I gave up in the middle of the 3rd one.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to check it out again. There are probably you could just watch The Next Generation again, and it'd be fine. And the other thing that bothers me about Enterprise, which I've talked about on every episode of Random Trek, where we talk about an Enterprise episode, which I think at this point maybe once or twice, is the theme song. It drives me crazy.
Oh yeah, because it's not the Star Trek song. Basically.
Exactly, it's not an orchestral thing. It's a stupid pop song.
Yes,
just annoys me.
And like a weird I think it belongs in the 90s, and it wasn't.
Well, yes, it is like a 90s pop song. And they sing all about faith, which is not Star Trek. Greg Noss and I talked about an Enterprise episode, and he brought up the point that Star Trek is not about faith; it's about science and being adventurers and not having faith of the heart, which is the whole song. It's very strange.
Yeah, that rubbed me the wrong way too. Yeah, I totally agree with that because it was just So, but how did you first come across Star Trek? I think I heard you talk about this on one of the Incomparable, but still,
it's funny you should mention this because as I've been doing this random Trek thing, Star Trek has taken up even more time in my life than it has before. So that made me really try and think about the first time that I saw Star Trek, and so I couldn't remember. So I was talking to my mom maybe yesterday or the day before. And I said, do you remember how I first got interested in Star Trek? And she said, well, when I was growing up, I watched the original series, and I liked it. And so I guess when you were a kid, the original series was on, in syndication. So we would just watch it, and you just took to it. And certainly when The Next Generation came on, I really got into it because it was a new Star Trek and, it was this new crew, and I was of an age where I could understand what was going on and I was cognizant of it. And it wasn't, the original series always has a place in my heart, but it is certainly of its time, in more than one way. The pacing is very different than modern TV shows. There's blatant sexism. There's a lot of kind of jingoistic things going on with Captain Kirk punching aliens in the face. So it's entertaining, but it is certainly of its time. And The Next Generation, I would argue, is also of its time, but that happens to be my time, so it has a special place in my heart as well. It's kind of like, The Next Generation is in fact not my favorite Star Trek series, but it is the one that I think of as my Star Trek series, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I get that. The thing is, I think I think a couple of months ago I rewatched the entire original series,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, there's something about, I agree with everything you said. Like it's wrong on a deep level just because of the time it was like shot in. Well, some stuff was just normal back then. It's really just
It's not normal now.
Yeah. Just like every time, that director of photography that gave the fuzzy filter to all the women, like that just cracks me up.
Yes, it's so obvious, and I don't even. And then, of course, we can talk about the costumes that they put those poor women in.
Yeah.
Or lack of
In the
costumes.
60s, lack of costumes. Yeah. Which I guess, yeah. But you see, you were indoctrinated into that because, you thought like Janeway wasn't supposed to be a captain.
I blame the original series for that. But the weird thing, not the weird thing, but the funny thing is the original series in the 60s was quite progressive. And now we're looking at it, 40 years later and thinking, this is so much sexism is going on. But this is like, there was a black woman who had an important role on the bridge, and women were serving on a military ship. This was crazy stuff for the 60s.
Yeah, it just had those blind spots that, sort of, I sort of let it get away with.
Well, I mean,
if you know what I mean.
You have to, take it in the context that it was written in. Much like, if you watch an American movie from the 40s, chances are somebody at some point, there's going to be a musical number where somebody is in blackface, which is just shocking to a modern audience. But I guess it was something they did back then. I don't know. But it's just so weird.
Okay, so how are you with the movies, like the Star Trek movies? Because I don't know, I've never heard you talk about that, and it's how because I'll ask it like this: like, do you like the new ones?
Oh, the J.J. Abrams reboots.
Yes,
I do like them. I think that they have the spirit of Star Trek. I think maybe 50% less lens flare might be good. And I am glad. I was afraid when the first one came out, Star Trek, I suppose it's just called, that they were going to make all the actors basically do impersonations of, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that they didn't do that, because I think that Star Trek is, this is going to sound ridiculous, but Star Trek is, these characters are kind of immortal. So they're kind of like, if a Shakespeare play, Hamlet, lots of people have played Hamlet, but it's always Hamlet. So, lots of people, I think, can play Captain Kirk, but he's always Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
So that's...
I agree with that. It's especially the, Kirk, Bones, and the Spock trio. I think that's the, no matter who the actor is, it's still those three guys.
As long as they can capture the spirit of those characters. They don't have, like Chris Pine, who plays Kirk now in these new movies. He's not doing a William Shatner impersonation. He's certainly, there's a little bit of William Shatner in his performance, but he is playing Captain Kirk, not William Shatner as Captain Kirk, and that's a big difference.
Oh yeah, well, I also think that's sort of impossible. Like if somebody just tried to play Shatner, it would just
look so bad. I mean.
Yeah,
you watched the original series, and he had some moments where he was a little over the top.
That's putting it mildly.
Yes.
Like that's the kindest thing you can say, probably. Yeah, but I still love that show. I don't know what it is. Like this is like every time I talk to one of you guys from The Incomparable, I sort of like it eventually gets to Star Trek, because I never really knew I was a Trekkie until like 5-6 years ago, and then I just gave up and figured, yeah, I actually like this too much. Like this is it's
you came out of the Trek closet.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Because I just, and I recently got Netflix because I spoofed my DNS, so they think I'm American. Yes, and I think my what's the area? My area code for Netflix is 90210.
You're in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Ljubljana is basically Beverly Hills. It's not, but yeah. So when I got Netflix, I saw a bunch of documentaries there about Star Trek. I think I watched all of them.
Oh, sure. Trekkies and Trekkies 2.
I've actually seen Trekkies before. I torrented that like 10 years ago or whatever it was out. But yeah, I saw The Captains.
Oh, The Captains,
where Kirk talks to all of the which is actually good, but has awful like product placement in it.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you know, but yeah, Kirk Shatner wears I think like a Bombardier, like the company that makes planes. Apparently they paid for the whole movie because he's in a cap of that, like, and he flies with their planes and stuff. It's just hilarious.
I saw that. And I thought, as is so happens with William Shatner, I think he tried really hard to make the movie not about himself, but it is basically about him, and then he talks to other people. But it's very interesting, and Avery Brooks is wacko.
Yeah,
in a good way.
Glasses. Yeah, in a good way, but yeah, just he's that the guy that speaks French and can play the piano.
Yeah, exactly.
He's that guy.
He's operating on a different level than I am, and I think it's a fantastic level, but he is wacky.
Yeah, we'll never be that guy.
I don't think so.
That's reserved for a very tiny percentage of the population.
Very, very true.
Okay, so so you're like 16 episodes in, which is wow. That's a hell of a backlog to So you're never nervous of missing one. I guess.
Well, so I as I said, I do two things. I'm a writer and a podcaster. So I'm writing a tech book over the next couple of months. So I need to have all these episodes done so I can actually write.
Okay. So you're not going to do both at some point?
No, I can't. I can't do both.
Oh yeah, well you're telling me I write and do this stuff.
See, it's too much.
So. Oh, it's way too much. But I do like.
I have a full-time job as well, so it. There's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we're just one more thing about Star Trek, and then I have this thing where I ask you about your hardware and software, like the stuff you use. But the podcast when you started, like, did you know it was gonna work this well? Do you know what I mean?
Is it working well? That's the question. I don't even know now if it's working well.
Yeah, but I actually think it does. Like because when I heard about it, I was like, that's just a weird premise. Like, I don't know how that's gonna. No, seriously, because I have a whole podcast network here, and I do 3 shows, and it's like an 8-show network. And every time I hear a concept and stuff, I always. So I like to think that I could at least predict that if it's going to be complete crap or it like work on some level. I think like I'd like to pretend that I can at least tell that, like, but it always surprises me. But it really does work. It's like how like. Okay, well, I guess that's the question. Did you think it was going to work?
Well, I did. I thought it was an interesting idea, and I thought it could work. The problem is that there are so many episodes of Star Trek and so many different degrees of quality in those episodes, shall we say, that I think the problem, and I was talking about this with my guest that I just recorded one yesterday, and I was talking about how the best shows, I think, are going to be the ones that are the episodes either really bad, the episode of Star Trek, and so we can, talk about all the plot holes and all the craziness, or it's like one of the classic episodes, and then you can just talk about how amazing it is and how, the characters developed or whatever. The episodes in the middle, though, where they're not really bad, but they're not really great, are kind of where things could go off the rails. But luckily, the people I'm inviting on really are helping to save that, because we can just talk about Star Trek as a whole and not concentrate on like the middling episode that we watched, and maybe dispense with that. So I think I would like to take all the credit and say that it's working so well because I'm an awesome host, but I don't think that is in fact the case. I think it's working well because I have invited smart people on to talk about Star Trek, And that's the other part of it, right? There's we're watching a random episode, but I'm also inviting people on that aren't necessarily Star Trek fans. So they could be, they're sci-fi fans, and they obviously are aware of Star Trek, but they aren't super hardcore fans necessarily. There are certainly people who are, so that's an interesting conversation. But when you have a conversation with a fellow Star Trek fan, that's very different than when you're having a conversation with someone who is aware of Star Trek but doesn't know, why, who the Jem'Hadar are and why they're, whatever the Deep Space Nine thing is. And so that makes it an interesting combination, I think.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for Cat's Paw. That's what I'm waiting for. So
that third season of the original series.
Oh, yeah, but for this show, man, that's gonna be a gold mine. That's just gonna be.
It is true. I am looking forward to Spock's brain. See who we can.
Yeah, a child could do it. Right? That's
exactly. I think that you can always, much like Star Trek itself is always a lens on whatever's happening at the time. We can use the episode to talk about, current trends and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. I think I've been very pleased at the reception because I am a fatalist and a pessimist at heart, I think, and I figured that no one would like it. So I'm very happy that people seem to like it so far, and we'll see if they continue to like it.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, that's good to hear because I just want it to continue because that's that's my new favorite show basically.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, because it's one is John Siracusa going to be part of this at any point?
Oddly enough, I am recording an episode with John Siracusa tonight.
Awesome! Mm-hmm. That is so awesome. Well, can you tell me the episode? Oh, you want to do it off air?
I can tell you the episode. It is a Deep Space Nine episode called Indiscretion.
Okay. Oh, that's gonna be. Oh, you see, I have something to look forward to again. Yes,
it's going to take a few episodes though, because he's going to be like episode 16 or 17. So.
Oh, I don't care, man. That's it's just I don't know. It's one of those ideas that sort of I figure should have been done before, but it really wasn't. I know there was a Nerdist show where they went through the original series episode by episode,
and there's a podcast called Mission Log that is doing a similar thing to what I'm doing, except they are doing it all through in order. So I think they've just gone through the whole original series, and now they're working through the original movies. And they're coming at it from just a slightly different tactic because I am less interested in the production notes and like the music and all kind of the esoteric Star Trekkiness stuff. I'm more interested in let's talk about the plot and the characters and what this means. And they do that as well, but they also kind of go hardcore into the trivia kind of stuff, which is interesting, but it's just not what I want to talk about. So it's a different...
And how people get turned into cubes.
Exactly.
That's the important question.
How do those belt buckles work? That's what I want to know. One button, many different functions. Just doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, they're different beings and they're human now, and the Kelvins, right?
That's right, the Kelvins.
Oh, I'm such a nerd. This is just so wrong.
You're talking to a guy who hosts a Star Trek podcast, so don't worry.
That is true. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, so we're going to go to the last part of this, what I continue to call a show.
I think it's a show.
Okay, well, thank you. So your hardware and your software, and since you are a Tua guy, I guess there's not going to be that many surprises, but you do write the Kindle Fire books.
I do.
So what do you use?
What do I use? So I have an iPhone 5S. I have pre-ordered a Kindle Fire phone. I guess it's not Kindle, it's a Fire phone. So the Amazon Fire phone. I will be writing about that. I have an iPad, an Air, I guess it is. I have every Kindle tablet that has ever been made. I have every e-ink Kindle that has ever been made. I have a Nexus tablet somewhere floating around that I don't really use that much. What else do I have? I'm using an iMac right now to talk to you. And a 3.4 gigahertz Intel Core i7 with 32 gigs of RAM. So that's very exciting. And also hooked up to it is a cinema display. So a lot of screen real estate. I have a MacBook Pro. I have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the Kindle Fire tablets. Like over here, they're useless.
Well, yeah,
just useless.
Because you can't get any of the content, right? So
yeah, it's yeah. Because I write for a tech magazine as well, and I review stuff, and I'm actually the Amazon guy, and the Kindles, I can review those because people do
you can
know
buy
English
books.
and stuff. Yeah, well, not Slovene books. I think there's like 3 of them. But but if you can read English or French or German, you're okay. But like I got the original Kindle Fire, and like it was a crappy tablet anyway, just useless over here. You can't do anything.
Yeah, the original Kindle Fire, which I wrote a book about, was not the best tablet.
Oh, it was awful. It was actually awful. That one was actually bad. It was cheap. It was cheap, but yeah, I don't know. I review every like Android tablet you can imagine, even the weird Chinese ones with the branding that sort of sounds like it's an actual brand.
It's close.
Yeah, it's not really. It's just one of those. I just imagine some dude opening a factory and picking a logo online, just slapping it on a existing tablet. And
that's probably what happened. The Amazon stuff is interesting because I don't know what Amazon's strategy, like global strategy, is, because they don't seem to care about anything outside of the United States, as with content rights. And so much of their strategy with their devices is that you can access all this wonderful content that Amazon has. But like you said, once you leave the United States, you then have just kind of a tablet that doesn't, like 98% of what it's built to do, you cannot access. So what's the point of it?
Yeah, I think like if you're in the UK, you're sort of okay, I guess, but really, yeah, that's exactly it. And I don't know why that is, because Apple is so in front on this. It's not even funny anymore.
Yeah,
it really isn't.
I don't know.
Like,
and I think, so I have a Fire TV as well, which I skipped over. I don't know if you want to include that in hardware. I have a whole bunch of AV stuff too. And I really love it. I think it's far superior to my Apple TV, because I think Amazon Video is better than iTunes. But I don't know why Amazon. I guess maybe it's too expensive to do international. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's weird because if Apple could sort of pull it off, I don't like Amazon's the one other company that could actually do it, because Google is just they're crap at that, just doing any kind of deal with content providers, because they have YouTube, and I think they think that's enough.
Right, and that probably scares off a lot of content providers too, because you can find a lot of things on YouTube that you really shouldn't be able to find on YouTube.
Yeah, because it's YouTube, because it's just swallowed the entire video market.
Right, exactly.
It's just, I think that is like internet video now at this point. That and a couple of Chinese and Russian sites, I think. Then it's just YouTube. But yeah, it's a weird thing, and I don't know why that is. Because the thing is, like, I can order stuff from the German Amazon and the British one. I do all the time, actually.
Like physical objects.
Yeah, physical stuff. The only weird thing was, for a long time, I don't think that's true anymore, but the Kindle e-readers, you could actually order it from Amazon, but they only send it from America, which is insane. And I actually ordered mine, and I got it in 3 days, which is, that blew my mind. I don't know.
Amazon's really good at delivering things.
Yeah, but seriously, 3
That's
days
impressive.
from like America to that was just, and when I saw the shipping information, like the tracking information, I thought it was a joke. I just thought I'm serious. I thought I got the wrong number, because it was like New Jersey, Heathrow, like Frankfurt, Brnik, that's the airport here. And it was in my hands. And I was like, what? Because I ordered a couple of like shoes and stuff from eBay from America. And that just took like a month.
Oh, well, I mean, even I order some stuff from eBay in America from Americans, and it takes forever, because it just, I don't know what Amazon does, but, well, they pay a lot of money to ship things to delight people, I suppose. But, yeah, it's crazy. I'm a big Amazon booster.
Yeah.
I like Amazon a lot.
Yeah, I think they're all kind of awesome, actually. Even the UK site and the German site, like when you can get some stuff on there that really should not cost so little.
Yes, that is my concern with Amazon, is they're selling lots of stuff, but they seem to be, I don't know how they make money. They aren't really making any money, so I don't know what's going on, but hopefully they don't go away.
Yeah, but that's that whole thing, I think Bezos or whatever you want to call the guy just keeps convincing people that, like, they're just selling a small fraction of stuff you can actually buy, and they want to sell everything.
Right.
Like, I think like the potential for growth and the stuff that Wall Street likes is there. I
Well,
guess.
yeah, that's true. And I mean, as it stands now, I think the selling the stuff is not as big a part of Amazon's business as it once was, since now probably, I don't know what the number is, but I bet a surprising percentage of the internet now runs on Amazon infrastructure, which, think about 10 years ago, imagining that Amazon, the bookstore, would be running huge websites that have nothing to do with Amazon, except that now they're running in their cloud services. It's crazy. Amazon has reinvented itself. It's an impressive story.
Yeah, and one that actually goes unnoticed, I think, when you talk about them. Like, people just forget that S3 is them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a weird thing. Because, they sold books.
I mean, it's not, Amazon is not a sexy company, right? Apple is a super sexy company. They make great products. Amazon, you have a great experience with Amazon, but it's not like, ooh, this is so sexy. My Kindle showed up in 3 days. That's great. I mean, it is great, but it's not like, oh my God, it's the most wonderful thing in the world. So I think they have gone under the radar a lot, and people don't really understand fully what Amazon is doing, and they're doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty. When I bought I'm on a Blue Yeti mic, and I bought it off of Amazon.co.uk, and it got here the next day.
See, that's crazy.
And in Europe, that's a miracle. This is not America, where we are in the EU and stuff, so it's getting better. But like a DHL guy called me the next day and says, I have a package. I'm like, are you sure? Like, is this, like, how big is the box? That was my first question. When he told me the size of the box, I said, that might actually be it. And I ordered it like the previous day at like 2 p.m. I don't know how.
That's all I can imagine.
Yeah. I think that, or like they have, Scotty doing the transportation stuff. I don't.
And it's crazy here in America. They are the Postal Service doesn't deliver on Sunday, but Amazon has contracted with them, and in certain cities, the post office now delivers for only Amazon on Sundays. So you could order something on Saturday afternoon and conceivably get it on a Sunday, which is just crazy.
Okay, I did not. Wow, that's such an American thing, isn't it? Like, it's a private company basically paying the postal service to do work on Sunday.
It is one of the quintessential American things, I think.
Yeah, that's I guess the guy shows up in like a flag, jumpsuit and stuff. Like, I don't know. That's just so American. Okay, so I'm sorry. We're doing this Amazon thing now. But yeah, okay. So software-wise, I since you use the iPad, I'm always interested in like iPad-specific stuff. So if you have any like apps you actually only use on the iPad, that's sort of what I'm interested in. And
only on the iPad. So I like tablets. I have many of them. But I never really, I use it for, there's this whole thing where, it's not just for consumption and people can create things, which I think is true, but I don't create anything on my iPad. I use it solely for consumption. I use Chrome instead of Safari because I don't like Safari. And I do it
because you are a normal person.
Exactly. And I use Evernote, but that's not only on my iPad. I use it on everything because that's where I put all of my information. 1Password, once again, not just on the iPad, but on all of my devices because I don't want to remember my hideously complex passwords. And those are probably the biggest things I use my iPad and my iDevices for. I mean, it's a pretty boring answer, but...
No, that's a legit answer because, and the number of people, like I've done, this is going to be my 80th interview, like on the Slovene side with Slovenian people in Slovene. So, but the number of people that actually say, mention Evernote is kind of, it keeps surprising me. Because I just figured like there was me and some other like 7 other people that used it, and it's like everybody uses Evernote.
Evernote is great.
Like no, yeah, it's awesome, and on Android it's even better. Like on Android, it's so much better than on iOS. It's crazy, but
Evernote is one of those one of those products where I think I'm just using 10% of what this thing can do, but I don't want to spend the time trying to figure out what else it can do.
Oh yeah, I just saw the new tab where you can make presentations and stuff. I'm like, I'm not learning that. Who has? I know what you mean. Yeah, they keep adding stuff, but they add it in a way where like you are overwhelmed, but you're not angry at them.
Exactly.
Because the buttons don't multiply. Like they're not Word, you know. They just don't keep adding buttons. They just keep adding stuff in ways that I will never understand, but
it's there in case you need it. And
they're
doing the most important thing, I think, is that the core functionality of the product, syncing across devices, just works so well that I don't mind that they add other stuff. And if that ever stops working, like Apple's iCloud debacle with duplicating contacts everywhere, if Evernote starts doing that, I would be quite upset. But so far, I've been using it for a long time, and they have never really messed up sync. So, and that's a tough problem to solve. So, kudos to them.
Yeah, I have the same experience. That's why I'm on a Nexus phone and on Android, because I've never had any problems with sync. And I think like once you have at least two devices, like even if it's just a PC and a phone, like that has to work.
Yeah.
It just has to. If I just like had a duplicate contact, like just once, I'd go insane because I really like put a lot of effort into having my contacts like arranged and stuff. Yeah, I want to like it's an OCD thing, I think, but yeah, that sort of has to work. Okay, so Scott, my last question, which is always the same: if you had to like name a physical object, doesn't have to be like computer hardware and stuff that you feel like it was made for you. You might still have it, you might not, but something that actually made like an impact on your life. I've gotten weird answers like space heaters and stuff. So, anything at all. It just, it can be your grandma, which I'm sure she's a fine lady, but, it has to be a physical object. So what would that be?
I think it is probably I have to say my Fitbit, because it is the piece of technology that has altered the way I live my life the most. Because it has, when I first got it, I've been Fitbitting for like maybe 3 years or something like that. I first got it, and I don't know, I'm assuming people know what a Fitbit is, but it's a fancy digital pedometer, basically. So it counts your steps and syncs across devices. It does all kinds of wacky stuff. But the main thing is it syncs your steps. And the idea is that you're supposed to set a goal for every day, and you hit it, and the default goal is 10,000 steps. And when I first got it, I thought, of course I walk 10,000 steps every day. This is going to be no problem. And I was horrified at how few steps I took, apparently. And so now you can often find me at the end of the day walking around my dining room table for an hour so that I can get my 10,000 steps in. So it has altered the way I live my life, and certainly made me walk a whole lot more than I did before.
Oh, awesome. I get that. I have the what was, I guess, the predecessor to the Fuel Band. It was this thing that you had to put actually a sensor on your shoe and stuff. So yeah, I understand completely when you start to track your progress. The mind is a strange thing when it just wants to get better at the stuff. So yeah.
And I was on a streak for like 4 months every day, more than 10,000 steps. And then I got the flu, and I had 2 days where I got like 200 steps. It was very depressing.
Yeah, and then the graph shows it.
It was very sad.
The graph is always, I know.
Yeah,
that's just depressing. Scott, that's it.
Well,
that is the whatever this is, because we were all over the place, but I actually really enjoyed it. Like I think those are my best episodes where we just the sports thing at the beginning and the Philadelphia stuff was just weird. I love that kind of stuff. So like, thank you for doing this and taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
To je bila 80. epizoda Aparatusa. Scotta najdete na Twitterju pod @blankbaby, jaz sem pa na Twitterju @anzet. Feedbacka sem vedno vesel, tako da mi težite na Twitterju ali pa na mailu anze@aparatus.si. Drugač pa še enkrat ful hvala vsem, ki ste že podprli Aparatus. Če pa tega še niste naredili, ker ste pa lahko na aparatus.si/podpri, ker pač vsak evro prav pride. Ful hvala, to je to, do naslednjič. Čau.